He sat at the city gates every day, for so long that he became part of the stone. His world was woven from sounds, from smells, from pain, and from loneliness. He froze at the same spot every cursed day, at the unchanging place. He had sat there so long that he stopped being a person in the eyes of the crowd, becoming part of the wall, part of the dust, part of the road. He recognized voices. He recognized people by their breathing. He read the mood of the crowd by how the noise of the street vibrated around him. But he could not see their faces. He could not see their eyes. He did not know what it meant when people smiled or laughed. He could not even imagine what a face was. For him, the world existed only as sounds, smells, burning touches, the pressure of pain. All-consuming loneliness. Every day someone passed by and tossed him a coin, but not out of mercy, not out of pity. They paid to buy their silence, to avoid hearing his voice, the voice that begged. He was a faceless shadow among the living, an invisible man. No one noticed. Long. Goat counted as dead, but inside him burned something else. A torment that had eaten him alive for years. For what was this darkness? What have I done? Why has God turned away from me? The crowd called him cursed, the Pharisees, irredeemable, the neighbors, a burden too heavy to bear. He was alone in the world, completely alone. He wanted to see this world just once, even for a single moment. He dreamed of seeing the triumphant color of the sky. He dreamed of seeing the face of the first person who would ever call him friend. He dreamed of seeing his own unseen, non-existent hands, seeing his life. But dreams are a luxury for those who still have hope, and in his dark world, even hope had been buried in the darkness. He was used to every day being the same, shadows passing by, footsteps passing by, life passing by. But that day, something was different. The crowd was not just moving, it was alive, loud, trembling, like the sea before a storm. The air shook. The ground vibrated under his hands. He lifted his head, blindly, seeing nothing, and cried out, Who is coming?" No one answered at first. The crowd rushed. People hurried, stepped on his toes, crushed his hands, and did not even notice. And suddenly someone shouted, "Jesus! Jesus of Nazareth is coming." The blind man froze. The name struck him like a flash of pain. He bent forward. Hope, the hope he feared to feel, broke inside him. Jesus, the one who changes people, the one who lifts the lost, who heals, who raises the dead. Jesus, he could not see him, but he heard how the entire crowd changed, how people gasped with excitement, with awe, how their hearts began to beat faster. One thought hammered in his mind. This is my chance, the only one I may ever have. He drew in a breath so deep it hurt, and shouted, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." The crowd exploded, voices clashing, shouting at him, "Be quiet, stop it, do not shout, no one cares about you." But the louder they yelled, the brighter the fire inside him burned, the desperate need to be heard, the cry he carried through all his dark life. He lifted his face toward the sky. He could not see. and screamed even louder, so loud the air seemed to tear apart. "Son of David, have mercy on me." And silence fell, a silence so deep the world froze and became only listening. Footsteps stopped. The crowd rustled and parted. The blind man felt someone standing near him, close, very close. Warm breath, the scent of dust and sunlight, and a voice, soft, calm, yet so powerful it pierced his soul. "Bring him to me." Hands helped him rise. He did not see where they were leading him, but he felt it. He was going to him, to the one who can do anything, anything. He stood before someone he had never seen, yet somehow had always known. Jesus said, "What do you want me to do for you?" Fear gripped him, filled his small, broken body, but he still whispered, "Lord, that I may see." Jesus was silent, a silence heavy as the sky before a storm. The blind man stood trembling, from fear, from hope, from not knowing what pain or mercy the next moment would bring. And then Jesus knelt down. The blind man heard it, how the dusty ground softened under his fingers. No one did that. No one ever knelt to his level. People always stood above him, looking down, but he came beside him. Jesus leaned forward, pressed his hand into the earth, slowly, firmly. The blind man heard the sound, a soft, wet rustle, like someone mixing water and dust. The crowd froze. Someone gasped. Someone whispered, frightened, What is he doing?" Jesus lifted his hand, and the blind man felt a gentle touch on his skin, cold, wet clay on his eyes. He jolted. No one had ever done this. He feared it and had waited for it his entire life. Then his voice, so quiet it seemed to pass straight through the heart. "Go, washed in the pool of Siloam." One sentence, and it could change everything. He could refuse. He could be afraid. He could ask, "Why?" Something flared inside him, the same fire that made him cry out in the crowd. He exhaled and nodded. Even though he saw nothing, he believed. They guided him toward the road. He walked slowly, feeling every stone beneath his hands. The crowd whispered behind him, afraid, laughing, doubting, but he walked. As long as the clay remained on his eyes, he had no idea what awaited him ahead. A miracle, a fall, disappointment. But he knew one thing. He had to go. He had to try. He had to risk. Because for the first time in many years, he had something stronger than pain, stronger than fear, hope. He reached Siloam, barely staying on his feet, every step nearly breaking him, stones cutting his soles, people pushing him aside. But he felt only one thing, the clay cold and heavy on his closed eyes, the place where his new life might be born, or where his last hope. He fell to his knees before the water, his fingers trembling so violently, as if they themselves doubted what they were doing. He leaned forward, scooped water into his hands, warm, alive, and brought it to his eyes. A moment, silence, and then the darkness did not fade. It exploded, not like a gentle sunrise, but like a lightning strike, like the sky tearing open. Light burst into him, so bright he cried out and fell backward. The world he had never seen hit him all at once. Blazing air, golden flashes, lines, shapes, fire of color. He gasped for breath, like a drowning man. He lifted his hands before his face and covered his mouth. "These are mine." He could see his hands shaking, fingers, skin, tiny scars, all real. Tears fell, and for the first time he saw them shimmering in the sunlight like tiny sparks of God. He looked at the world, and the world looked back at him. The ground, not just ground, but gold, pulsing life. Stones, alive. The palm leaves, breathing. The wind, visible. Voices in the street now had faces, expressions, shape. He saw children running past, a woman with a basket, an old man whose hands trembled. He saw everything, and his heart shattered from pain, joy, wonder. His body gave out. He fell to his knees, laughing through tears, covering his face with his hands. He could see, he, the one everyone called, cursed, forgotten, lost, could see, and when he lifted his head, he saw him. Jesus stood nearby, simply there, like a light that does not press, but fills. This was not just sight, this was birth. He lifted his head, slowly, as if afraid the world would disappear if he blinked. The light cut into his eyes, colors too bright, everything too huge. But in the middle of that blinding chaos, there was one figure he recognized, without a single word. Jesus. He stood slightly to the side, calm, quiet, as if he had been waiting for him for eternity. No flashes, no thunder, no blinding glow. Only the eyes that held more sky than the sky itself. He froze. His heart struck against his ribs and seemed to fall straight down inside him. For the first time he looked at the face of the one whose name he had whispered in the darkness all his life. And he understood. He had seen Jesus always, not with his eyes, but with his heart. But now it was real. He saw the shape of his face, the warm tone of his skin, the soft folds of his robe, the faint shadow of his beard, the light that seemed to come from within, not blinding, but calming. This was not light that tears apart. This was light that heals. He gasped for air, sharp, broken breath. His hands trembled. He wanted to speak, but the words stuck in his throat like a cry, terrified to come out. Jesus looked at him, not as at a beggar, not as at someone cursed, not as at a shadow. He looked at him as if he saw everything he had been and everything he would someday become. And then the man whispered, afraid to shatter the moment, "Lord." The voice cracked, turned into a whisper, almost breath. He did not know what to say. How do you explain what your soul is trying to hold? How do you thank the one who tore you out of eternal night? But Jesus did not need words. He smiled, barely, yet enough to dissolve fear as if it had never existed. And he said softly, so gently, that his voice went deeper into him than any prayer. "Look, and you will know." It was more than permission. It was an invitation to a new life. He felt it, everything before this day, the pain, the loneliness, the long years of darkness. All of it had been only the road leading to this single second. From this moment on, he no longer belonged to the darkness, but to the light. The crowd stirred, quietly at first, like someone had shaken water inside a giant clay jar. But then the noise rose, like a January wind crashing into narrow streets. People leaned forward, stretching their necks, gripping each other's shoulders. Someone gasped. Someone covered their mouth. Someone whispered, "He sees. He really sees." A woman at the corner dropped her basket, and pomegranates rolled across the ground like red drops of blood. An old man in a worn cloak pressed against the wall, his legs trembling. A child ran forward, disbelief bursting in his voice. "Mama, it is him, the one who always sat at the gate." But not everyone rejoiced. A few men exchanged glances, their faces pulled tight like strings. "This cannot be," one hissed. "That is not him," another said, though his voice shook. "Looks like him, but no, impossible," others whispered, while the whole city struggled to grasp the miracle. One man, the former blind beggar, stood in the middle of the street, clutching his chest, as if the world was too big to fit inside his lungs. His soul felt torn between joy and fear. He saw faces for the first time, and each face was like a blow to the heart. Stern, doubtful, shocked, kind, harsh, wary. He saw everything, and everything was too much. Light, color, movement, the breath of the world all crashing into him like a storm. And the crowd roared around him like the sea. Some fell to their knees, thanking God. Some shut their eyes, unable to face what they saw. And some looked at Jesus with hatred, because light always awakens the darkness. Jesus stood calmly, unmoving, like a rock that breaks the waves. His gaze was gentle, quiet, still. But those who looked at him felt uneasy, because a miracle always demands an answer. Someone whispered, "This is a sign." Another pushed him away. "This is dangerous." A third, barely audible, "If he can do this, what will he do next?" And the man who once was blind never took his eyes off Jesus. The world around him was new, overwhelming, deafening. But in that world was only one direction, one anchor, one truth, the one who had given him back his life. The crowd closed in around him, like predatory birds that had spotted a wounded animal. The air turned thick, breathing, difficult. The world that had just been born for him suddenly began to press in from every side. People moved closer, too close. Faces, dozens of faces he had never seen before in his life, and too many of them were frightening. Strange eyes glimmered not with wonder, but with fear and envy and something else, darker. "Speak," someone shouted right next to his ear. The sound struck like a whip. He flinched, covering his eyes with his hand. "How did you receive your sight?" another growled, yanking him by the arm so sharply he lost his balance. "Who did this?" A third stepped forward, his eyes shining like two knives. Someone grabbed his clothes. Someone clamped onto his shoulder. Every touch sent heat through him. He was used to silence, to emptiness, to solitude. And now, these people, these faces, these hands. "Let go," he tried to say, but his voice broke. The crowd did not listen. The crowd listens only to itself. "It is magic," someone shouted from the right. "A trick," from the left. You lie, straight in front of him, and then the blow. They shoved him hard. He fell to one knee, his palms scraping the dusty ground. The light around him once again became too bright, too alive, the world exploding. Again. Speak. The crowd bent over him like a cloud swallowing the sky. And there, in the midst of this roar, through fear and fury, he understood a terrible truth. People can fear the light far more than the darkness. His heart pounded so loudly it seemed everyone could hear it. But only one did. A voice cut through the uproar like lightning tearing open a stormy sky. Leave him. The crowd froze. With his whole body, his skin, every trembling cell he felt. He was near. Jesus stepped forward. No anger, no shouting, yet the noise of the crowd dissolved into the air. The light returned to the world, calming every breath. He lifted his eyes. Jesus, looking at him, quietly, deeply, so deeply that everything else vanished, and his throat tightened, because for the first time in his life, someone looked at him, not as a shadow, but as a man, as a son. The Pharisees appeared as if summoned by the fear of the crowd. They pushed people aside with a single look, heavy, cold, like a blade. He heard the world around him inhale, as though no one wanted to stand in the path of these men. "Bring him here," said the elder. The voice flapped, emotionless, but carrying power. He was shoved forward. He felt their eyes on him, studying, suspicious, as if they were not looking at a man, but at a riddle to be taken apart, piece by piece. "You were blind?" one asked, tilting his head. He nodded. "And now you see?" He nodded again. The sky above him trembled. Distant sounds faded. These men created a silence, the kind in which truth becomes too loud. "Who opened your eyes?" The question sounded gentle, but like a trap coated in honey. He swallowed, his heart pounding in his temples. He remembered the light, the voice, the hands that touched his face, remembered the darkness tearing apart inside him. "The man called Jesus," he said, the words barely a whisper, and the air changed, not loudly, not sharply, but enough to raise goosebumps across his skin. "Jesus," one of the Pharisees repeated, the name sounding like an accusation. "This cannot be of God," said another. "This man breaks the law. He is a sinner. He is nothing." Their voices rose like cold waves, swallowing one after another. He squeezed his eyes shut. Just moments ago he had seen the world, felt alive, and now the world wanted to push him back into darkness. "He gave me sight," he said, voice trembling. "I do not know everything, but one thing I do know. I was blind, and now I see." The words, simple, direct, cracked through the silence like a hammer. The crowd murmured. Someone gasped. Someone turned away. The Pharisees stared at him as if he were a criminal, someone daring enough to speak a truth they could not bear to hear. "Take him away," the elder said sharply. "We will deal with him later." The Pharisees did not retreat. They called for more witnesses. They brought his parents, gray-haired, tired, small before the weight of authority. They trembled, not from age, but from fear. "Is this your son, the one you say was born blind?" They were asked. "How does he see now?" The world paused. The sun looked at them for the first time, at the faces he had never seen before. He waited. Say it. Say it is me. Say God touched me. Say Jesus is no lie. The father looked away. The mother gripped her clothes. We know he is our son, whispered. And we know he was born blind. As for how he sees now, we do not know. Who opened his eyes, we do not know. He is grown. Ask him yourselves. They were afraid. They knew if they said too much about Jesus, they would be cast out of the synagogue, out of society, out of the fragile little world they clung to. And so they chose silence, chose not to see. The sun looked at them, the ones he had longed to see, his whole life, and understood. Sometimes even those closest to you can step back. Sometimes people's fear is stronger than their love, but God does not step back. Anger. Give glory to God, they said. We know this man is a sinner. He looked at them, at the men who had been seeing their whole lives, and suddenly realized they saw less than he had seen in his darkness. Whether he is a sinner, I do not know, he said. One thing I know, I was blind, and now I see. That was too much. You were born in sin, and you dare teach us, they shouted. They grabbed him again, dragging him away. He walked, uneven, stumbling, but for the first time, there was no fear in him, because he could see. He saw the world that had been missing from his life so long, and he saw the truth, and truth cannot be hidden. Even the whole world screams that it does not exist. They let him out, pushed him, the way one throws aside a useless stone from the road. No words, no pity, just a shove, and the door slammed behind him so loudly it felt like an entire life had closed. In a single moment, he became again what he had been all his life. No one. People walked past him without looking. Someone muttered a curse. Someone spat into the dust by his feet, and he stood there, not knowing where to go. The world was enormous, too enormous, and bright. The colors cut his eyes like blades. The wind felt too alive, the voices too loud. He was alone, completely alone. For the first time he could see, and for the first time he understood how terrifying it is to be unwanted in a world that now felt painfully real. Lord, he whispered, but there was no answer, only the noise of the street, the dust, and a vast, homeless emptiness inside him. He took one step, another, a third, but his heart seemed to fall somewhere deep, back into the same darkness where he had lived all his life. Only now the darkness was outside. He saw people, but no one saw him. He saw houses, walls, the sky. No one saw his pain, and then silence. A silence like the one that comes only before something great. He felt someone standing beside him, not a frightening presence, not a cold shadow, warm, gentle, like a light that does not blind, but embraces. He lifted his head, solely afraid to be wrong, and he saw him. Jesus stood before him, simply, calmly, as if he had been waiting, as if he had been searching, as if he had known he would stand here, broken, rejected, cast out. In his eyes there was no judgment, no disappointment, only one thing. Something he had seen once before, that deep, endless look, the one he would call love. Do you believe in the Son of God? Jesus asked. The voice quiet, warm, human. He inhaled so deeply it made his chest ache. Lord, who is he that I may believe in him? Jesus stepped closer, very close. You have seen him. It is he who speaks with you. The world disappeared. The crowd disappeared. The sky disappeared. Only he remained. He fell to his knees, not from fear, not from pain, but because for the first time in his life, he felt he was found. I believe, Lord, he whispered, his voice breaking, and Jesus simply placed his hand on his shoulder. And in that moment he understood. The light he had seen that morning was only the beginning. He did not know how long he had been kneeling, a second or an eternity, but for the first time in his life it did not matter, because for the first time he was not feeling the ground beneath him. He was feeling the warmth of a hand, and that warmth was more real than anything he had seen today. The crowd whispered, trembled, as if they too had witnessed something too holy to speak aloud. But he heard no one, only his own breathing, and that soft voice that seemed to hold his heart in its hands. He lifted his head, slowly, carefully, the way one raises the eyes to a sunrise they have never seen. And he saw a face that could not be mistaken for any other, pure, calm, glowing without any light. Jesus looked at him not as at a beggar, not as at an outcast, not as at a man thrown out like dirt from a doorstep. He looked at him as if none of that mattered, as if he saw in him something no one had ever seen. Not a single person, not a single soul. And in that gaze, something that could heal far deeper than sight. Follow me, Jesus said quietly. So quietly, it louder than any shout. He rose, unsteady, trembling almost, but for the first time, not rising from darkness. He was rising into light, a light that came not from the sun, not from the world, but from the One standing before him. He looked at his hands. Now he knew them, now trusted them, and he understood these hands would never again reach into emptiness. He lifted his eyes to the sky, vast, endless, alive, and understood that it did not press down on him. It called to him. He looked at the road, and for the first time, it did not seem endless, painful darkness, because now he saw where to go, and he stepped forward. One step, another, but he stepped no longer as a blind man, no longer as an outcast, no longer as someone the world had declared unwanted. He stepped as a man who had been seen, as a man who had been called, as a man who had been given light. And when he walked after Jesus, he understood. His miracle was not simply sight. His miracle was a new life, a life where light was not around him. The light was within him. He stood among people who could see, yet were blind. They looked at the miracle, but did not understand it. They heard the words, but did not hear their meaning. They saw Jesus, but did not see God. And he, the one who had lived in eternal darkness, saw everything. And the light that tore his night apart was not just sight, it became truth. In that moment he understood. To see is not about the eyes, it is about the heart. about the courage to face what others run from. He looked at the world with his eyes wide open, and for the first time understood how vast it was. But even more, he understood this: the people around him, those who had seen all their lives, feared the light more than he had ever feared the darkness. They whispered, avoided his gaze, searched for explanations that would not shatter their familiar order. They wanted to witness miracle, but they did not want to change their lives. And he saw too clearly now. He saw fear inside people, saw pride, saw empty hearts behind fine clothing, saw how many looked Jesus, but not one followed him. And the more he saw, the clearer it became. The hardest part is not opening your eyes. The hardest part is seeing the light. He stood before Jesus, no longer blind, no longer a shadow, no longer the one people walked around as if he were a stone on the road. He looked straight into his eyes and saw everything in them: mercy, strength, truth, light. He saw himself as God had intended him to be. Then he heard the words that made his soul tremble. Look, and you will know. It was not a command. It was an invitation to live differently, to see deeper, to walk farther. He took a step, the step of a man who sees. The world around him shone, but the light within him shone even brighter. And then a question was born, one that would not leave him. Why did he see while others did not, or did not want to see? This is not just the story of a man who saw the world for the first time. This is the story of us, of how easy it is to live years and see nothing at all, to walk past love, past truth, past God. Blindness is not only physical, and you know that. There is blindness to our own mistakes, to our pride, to the pain of people standing right beside us, to the beauty that calls to us every day while we rush past. The world is loud, the world distracts, the world blinds. So many voices promise truth that the real one becomes hard to recognize. And question is no longer whether we see with our eyes, but whether we see with our hearts. Like that blind man, we all stand between darkness and light, between fear and hope, between the familiar night and the new vision that could change everything. And God still asks, quietly, directly, seriously, what do you want me to do for you? So what do you want? For everything to stay the same? Or for your eyes, your inner eyes, to finally open? What truth are you refusing to see? From whom are you turning your gaze away? What pain are you hiding in the dark? What hope are you afraid to let in? Every one of us has a moment when the darkness cracks, when God calls us toward the light, and in that moment there is only one question: will you step out of your darkness or curl back into it? If this story opened your eyes even a little, share it. Someone near you is standing right now on the border between light and darkness, and they need this step. Write in the comments, what truth have you recently seen in your own life? Follow us. Here, every parable is not just a story. Here, every parable teaches us how to see. Are you ready to truly see? Ready to challenge what you think you know? Ready to let God transform your vision? If this story opened your eyes even a little, hit share. Tag someone who needs to hear this. Write in the comments, what truth did you discover recently? And do not forget to subscribe for more biblical parables that challenge, inspire, and help you see the world differently. Write one word in the comments. We will see it. We will read it. We are here. And if you want to see how Christ not only saves, but stops the storm, watch the next story. How Doubt Destroys Faith, a short but life-changing parable.